The story of origins holds a detail many chose to silence, alongside the lineage of Abel, cut short by violence, and the lineage of Seth, preserved as sacred heritage. There flowed another blood upon the earth. It was the blood of Cain, marked by judgment, expelled from the soil that once sustained him. What seemed condemnation turned into a new path. Far from Eden, he raised walls and called to himself the first city. In that act was born a civilization forged in exile, upheld by ambition and pride. And the echoes of that lineage, lost and rediscovered, pass through the generations. Many were lost. Others sought redemption in the valley of redemption. The account in Genesis declares the sentence, "Cain would never again draw from the earth the sustenance that once fed his parents. A wanderer, he would roam the world without rest." At first glance, it was the ruin of his existence. Yet between the lines of the curse lay a new impulse. If the earth would no longer yield its fruits, he would have to wrest something different from it. Survival would depend on craft, not on gift. And it was in that place of loss that invention took root. Cain learned to shape the environment, to build shelter, to discover power where once there had been only dust. The mark he carried, so debated throughout the centuries, was not merely a sign of guilt. It was a seal that kept him from immediate destruction. Protection and burden were intertwined. The exile lived beneath a stigma, but also beneath a mystery that ensured his lineage would not vanish. Driven out to the land of Nod, Cain found a territory without rules. There was no memory of Eden there, nor any boundary set. It was the space of exile, but also of opportunity. And in that place, he performed the act that would rewrite history. He raised a city and gave it the name of his son. That act was more than survival. For the first time, humanity ceased to be nomadic and took root in the soil. Walls of stone became shelter. Order arose amidst chaos, and the solitude of a fugitive was transformed into the foundation of generations. From fragility was born strength. What should have been remembered as a curse became the inaugural mark of civilization. From the descendants of Cain arose men who shaped the very foundations of humanity. The first was Jubal, described as the father of those who dwell in tents and possess livestock. He was not content merely to shepherd. He organized herds, established caravan routes, and turned husbandry into accumulated wealth. The economy was born beneath his shadow. His brother Jubal was called the father of those who play the harp and the flute. With him came music, the art that gives form to memory and to feeling. The sounds that echoed from strings and pipes were not meant only to entertain. They marked the dawn of culture, of collective identity, of the language that binds souls in a single rhythm. The third, Tubal-Cain, became a master in the art of bronze and iron. From his burning forges came tools that transformed agriculture, weapons that imposed power, and structures that made cities endure. With him, fire ceased to be mere flame and became dominion over matter. These three brothers raised the pillars of civilization: economy, culture, and technology, the fruits of a cursed lineage which nevertheless laid the foundations of the ancient world. In the seventh generation, the lineage of Cain found its own voice. Lamech, patriarch, took for himself 2 wives, an act of excess that shattered the pattern of unity established since Eden. Before them, he recited a song that endured through the centuries as a dark manifesto. I have slain a man for wounding me and a young man for striking me. There was no lament in his words, but pride. The blood spilt was not accident, but declaration. Vengeance did not come from God, but from his own hand. And at the end, the sentence that defied the heavens. If Cain would be avenged 7-fold, Lamech proclaimed himself avenged 70 times 7. There, a philosophy was forged. The lineage no longer sought divine shelter. The law was strength, and justice but a reflection of human brutality. The Song of Lamech resounded as the birth certificate of an ideology that placed man upon the throne and turned violence into a code of honor. Time advanced, and 2 currents flowed side by side. On one side, the lineage of Seth, who called upon the name of the Lord. On the other, the descendants of Cain, surrounded by culture, wealth, and weapons. At a certain moment, these rivers converged. Genesis tells that the sons of God took for themselves the daughters of men. The text does not speak of angels, but of lineages. The devout sons of Seth joined with the daughters of Cain. Women fair and sophisticated, raised amidst the cities, adorned with fabrics and music, heirs of a life shaped by iron and by art. The result of this fusion was a hybrid generation, powerful and fascinating, called the Nephilim. Men of renown, warriors, leaders. They were not only great in stature, but mighty in influence. A humanity that carried the spirituality inherited from Seth and the ambition inherited from Cain. Yet this union did not draw mankind closer to God. It became the dawn of a civilization dazzling on the outside, yet corrupted within. A humanity that raised not altars, but monuments to itself. The fusion of the lineages brought humanity to a point of no return. Genesis describes an earth corrupted, where every imagination of the heart was continually evil. Judgment came in the form of waters that covered mountains and cities, erasing the memory of empires and silencing the songs of an entire civilization. Noah and his family were preserved, direct descendants of Seth. Within the ark, 8 souls carried the future. Yet the narrative holds an unsettling silence. Nothing is said of the origin of the wives of Noah's sons. That absence leaves room for the suspicion that traces of the accursed lineage may have crossed the waters. The echo is revealed soon after. Ham, son of Noah, exposed the nakedness of his father and received the curse that fell upon Canaan, his descendant. It is within this line that centuries later, Nimrod arises, called the first to be mighty upon the earth. A hunter before the Lord, founder of kingdoms, his name is bound to the building of Babel. The lineage that began with Cain is reborn in the figure of Nimrod. The exile raised a city. The descendant raised an empire. The mark of rebellion was not lost in the flood. It merely changed its form, reappearing as ambition made order now upon the scale of nations. In Shinar, Nimrod established the work that would define his generation. Founding cities was not enough. The heavens themselves had to be reached. Burnt bricks replaced stone. Bitumen sealed every joint, and the tower began to rise upon the plain. The project was not mere architecture. It was a manifesto. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered across the earth. The words echoed the philosophy of Lamech. Unity was no longer found in worship, but in ambition. The tower was an altar raised to human pride, a sign that the spirit of Cain still lived. Divine intervention confounded the tongues and scattered the builders. The work ceased, yet the idea did not die. From that day forth, every empire that sought the glory of its own name raised its own Babel, with stone, iron, fire, or blood. The lineage of Cain did not survive only in forgotten names. It passed through generations as a hidden impulse, shaping cities, crowning kings, fueling wars. The progress that illuminates also consumes. The same fire that warms the forge raised weapons that laid nations waste. The mark of Cain was not erased by the waters of the flood, nor by the tongues confounded at Babel. It breathes within the human heart, whenever ambition rises above the Creator. Every hospital and every arsenal, every song and every machine carry that echo. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of the lost civilization. It was never truly lost. It merely changed its face, and it continues to raise its towers in the shadow of time.